If you've ever been the black sheep of your family, then you already know. Sometimes, the people meant to love you the most are the first to break you. My name is Michelle Hartman, and before anyone knew my name, before anyone cared what I built, I was the quiet girl no one believed in. And for a long time, I believed them. Growing up, confidence wasn't something I inherited, it was something I had to survive without. My family wasn't warm or supportive. They were competitive, sharp-tongued, and obsessed with appearances. The Hartmans weren't rich, but they acted like royalty. My mother believed beauty was currency. My uncle believed success only mattered if someone else failed. And my father, well, he stayed silent, which somehow hurt more than the insults. I was 12 the first time someone in my family told me I wasn't enough. My uncle, silver watch, too loud laugh, the kind of man who liked punching down, looked at my report card and smirked. Straight A's? Cute, he said. But intelligence is worthless if no one takes you seriously. And no one takes awkward little girls seriously. My mother didn't disagree. She just adjusted my hair like I was a doll she wished came in a better model. But the moment that branded itself into my memory happened years later, at a family reunion when I was 21. It was supposed to be a celebration. My cousin had just gotten engaged, the golden boy everyone adored. And I was standing in the backyard carrying appetizers because my mother insisted I be useful since I clearly wasn't interesting. Everyone laughed and toasted and admired the ring, and then someone, maybe my aunt, maybe one of the cousins, asked me casually, "So, Michelle, anyone special in your life yet?" Before I could answer, my uncle cut in with a booming laugh. "Her? Please. No man will ever want her. She's not the smart one. She's not the pretty one. She's just there." The table erupted in laughter. My mother didn't stop him. She added softly, like she was offering me advice. "You should listen, Michelle. Some women are meant to be chosen. Others should just be grateful if someone settles for them." I still remember the sound of my glass hitting the pavement because my hands shook too hard to hold it. I didn't defend myself. I didn't yell or cry. I stood there frozen like a child who wasn't allowed to feel anything unless it was approved. But something shifted in me that day. Not rage, not yet. Something quieter. Awareness. These people would never respect me, no matter how hard I tried. They didn't see me, not really. They saw a version of me they needed to keep small so they could feel big. That night, after the reunion ended and the laughter faded, I locked myself in my childhood bedroom and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. And somewhere in the quiet, something inside me hardened, not in a cruel way, but in a way that finally protected me. If they wouldn't choose me, then I would choose myself. The next morning, before anyone woke up, I packed a single suitcase, a few clothes, my laptop, a worn-out notebook filled with business ideas I never dared share aloud. I didn't leave a note. I didn't say goodbye. Because what was there to explain? I took a train to the city with $784 in my bank account and a heart bruised enough to finally stop trying to please people who enjoyed hurting me. The city wasn't kind, but it was honest. And honesty, even the harsh kind, felt like freedom. I worked 3 part-time jobs: barista, receptionist, and late-night data entry. During the day, I studied market trends, digital platforms, and pricing models. I spent nights designing a beta version of something I wasn't sure would work, a real estate tech platform that paired AI with purchasing analytics. I didn't have investors. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a family cheering me on. I had something else: silence. And silence can be powerful, because no one expects anything from you when they believe you are nothing. Every insult they ever gave me became fuel. Every laugh echoed as motivation. And while they assumed I was failing somewhere out of sight, I was building. I wasn't ready then. Not yet. But the foundation was forming. They had written me off. But they didn't realize something. Being underestimated is not a weakness. It's camouflage. Because no one sees you coming. And when you finally rise, they have no choice but to watch. Even if it destroys everything they thought they knew. And this was only the beginning. Building something from nothing isn't glamorous, not at first. People love the headlines: youngest billionaire, overnight success, visionary. But no one ever talks about the years when no one believes in you. Not strangers, not coworkers, not even yourself. My first year in the city was survival, not success. I lived in a tiny studio above a laundromat. The air always smelled like detergent and steam, and trains shook the walls every time they passed. My bed was a mattress on the floor, my desk was an old dining table someone left by a dumpster, and my meals were whatever was discounted at the grocery store. I worked, constantly, sometimes 18 hours a day, 3 jobs, and every spare minute went into developing my idea. I didn't know whether it would become anything. I just knew I needed something that was mine, something no one could take away or belittle. The platform was supposed to make real estate investment more accessible. Not just for corporations or wealthy families like mine, but for single parents, young professionals, retirees, anyone who wanted to invest without being told they needed millions or a family name. I didn't plan it as revenge. I planned it because I remembered what it felt like to have doors closed in your face before you even touched the handle. Still, there were days I wanted to quit. Days when the code broke. Days when a client hung up on me mid-sentence. Days when exhaustion felt heavier than ambition. The turning point came late one night while I sat in a cafe long after it had technically closed. The owner, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and sleeves rolled to his elbows, let me stay because I was quiet, polite, and tipped even when I couldn't afford to. He placed a fresh cup of coffee next to my laptop. "You building something?" he asked casually. I hesitated, trying. He nodded, then leaned on the counter. "Most people don't even try. That already puts you ahead." I didn't tell him, but those words carried me through the next 6 months. Eventually, the platform was functional. Not perfect, not polished, but real. Now, the terrifying part began, letting the world see it. I emailed investors, 52 of them. 46 ignored me. 5 declined with short, cold responses. 1 agreed to meet. Her name was Alicia Reyes, a former finance executive turned angel investor. She was known in the industry for backing underdogs and visionaries long before anyone else believed in them. The meeting was scheduled at a hotel lounge far nicer than anything I was used to. My hands shook the entire train ride there. I wore my only blazer. It didn't quite fit, but it made me feel like the version of myself I was trying to grow into. When Alicia walked in, she didn't shake my hand immediately. Instead, she studied me. Not with judgment, but with curiosity. "Michelle Hartman," she said. "I've seen your projection deck. It's ambitious." My throat tightened. "Too ambitious?" "No," she said, finally smiling. "Just ambitious enough to make old men uncomfortable." I felt a laugh slip out. Small, nervous, but real. She gestured to my laptop. "Show me what you've built." For the next 45 minutes, I explained everything. The technology, the purpose, the scalability, the ethics behind it. My voice wavered only once, when I said, "No one should feel like opportunity is something they must be born into." Alicia didn't interrupt. She didn't rush me. She listened. When I finally finished, she sat back and crossed her arms thoughtfully. "You know," she said, "most founders pitch money or disruption, but you're pitching access, and that's rare." I swallowed hard. "So, what do you think?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached into her bag, pulled out a pen, and signed the top sheet of paperwork I couldn't believe she had already brought. "I think you're going to change the industry," she said, "and I want to be part of it." My vision blurred, not from shock, but from relief so deep it nearly knocked the breath out of me. That night, I walked home, not because I couldn't afford a ride, but because I needed to feel the ground under my feet. For the first time in my life, someone outside my family believed I was capable of more than existing. And that did something to me. Success didn't appear overnight, but momentum did. 1 investor became 3. 3 projects became 10. Suddenly, I was hiring developers, analysts, designers. My tiny studio became an office. The laundromat hum became the sound of keyboards, strategy, and possibility. But even as the world slowly began saying yes, the echo of my family's voices followed me like shadows. "You're not the smart one. No man will ever want you. You'll never be enough." Only now, something inside me had changed. I no longer believed them. And soon, very soon, neither would the world. Success doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a change in the air you don't notice until you realize you're breathing differently. By the time my company, Open Key Investments, reached its second year, we were no longer a hopeful idea. We were operational, growing, real. But growth isn't linear. It's messy. It's built on mistakes, late nights, and decisions that feel terrifying because no one is there to validate them. We landed our first major partnership during a storm. Literally. The power had gone out in our building, the Wi-Fi was down, half the team was huddled around laptops connected to spotty phone hotspots while I paced the small office, rehearsing the pitch in my head. A venture capital firm was considering backing us. If they said yes, everything would change. No pressure. When the call finally connected, a man named David, cold voice, stiff tone, spoke first. "You've gotten a lot of attention recently, Michelle, but attention doesn't equal longevity. Convince me you're not just a trend." It was meant to intimidate me, and a past version of me, the girl at the family reunion, would have shrunk. But now, I stood straighter. "I don't build trends," I replied evenly. "I build infrastructure. Trends can be ignored. Infrastructure changes behavior." Silence. Then, almost reluctantly, he said, "Go on." I walked him through everything: the numbers, projections, retention metrics, the future roadmap. When I finished, he exhaled like he had been holding his breath the entire time. "We'll send over the term sheet this afternoon," he finally said. I thanked him calmly. But the second the call ended, I collapsed into my chair and laughed. Half disbelief, half relief. My team clapped. One of the interns wiped tears. Someone opened a bottle of cheap champagne we'd been saving for someday. And in that moment, cramped office, flickering lights, sticky floors, we felt unstoppable. But success, especially sudden success, doesn't make life easier. It just changes the problems you face. Within months, we moved into a proper office. We expanded the staff. We secured more partnerships. Our platform began trending in tech publications. For the first time, journalists emailed me for interviews, asking not whether I could succeed, but how I did. Still, something lingered, something small, quiet, and unwelcome. Fear. Not fear of failure, not anymore, but fear of being discovered. Not by the public, by my family. They still had no idea what I was doing. I hadn't seen them since the reunion. No birthdays, no holiday calls, not even a message. The silence was mutual, an unspoken agreement that I no longer existed in their world. Most days, I told myself I preferred it that way. But some nights, when the office was dark and the city outside my window pulsed with life, a memory would surface. My mother brushing my hair when I was 8, humming softly before bitterness hardened her voice years later. My father teaching my brothers how to fish, while I was told to sit quietly so I wouldn't get in the way. My uncle's voice, mocking, confident, cruel. "No one will ever want you. You'll never be the smart one." And even though my accomplishments grew, recognition, stability, momentum, there was a part of me that still carried those sentences like scars. The first industry award nomination changed that. My assistant burst into my office breathless. "You need to see this." There it was on her screen, Technology Innovator of the Year nominee, Michelle Hartman. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from something close to disbelief. Someone out there, someone who didn't owe me love or history, believed I deserved to be seen. At the award ceremony, surrounded by people whose confidence filled rooms before they spoke, I felt small for a moment. But then I thought of where I started. Of the laundromat walls and the cheap meals, and the girl who whispered ideas to herself because no one else would listen. The announcer paused, envelope in hand, voice echoing through the hall. "And the winner is Michelle Hartman." Applause hit like a wave. Camera flashes blurred my vision as I walked to the stage. But the moment that stayed with me wasn't the trophy placed in my hands. It was the words I spoke into the microphone. I wasn't raised to believe I belonged in rooms like this. But I learned something important. No one has the authority to tell you who you can or cannot become. Not family, not strangers, not fear. The audience rose in a standing ovation, not because I was extraordinary, but because my story was painfully ordinary. People knew what it felt like to be underestimated. That night, as I held the award in my hand, I finally felt something I had never felt before. Not validation. Not revenge. Ownership. My life was no longer something happening to me. It was something I was building, piece by piece, decision by decision. And I had no idea then, but the world was watching. Including the people who once laughed at me. Their silence was about to break. Success has an interesting way of drawing attention. Slowly at first, then all at once. After the awards ceremony, doors that had always been locked suddenly opened as if they were motion activated. Investors who once ignored my emails now requested meetings. Developers, analysts, and executives reached out wanting to join us. And for the first time, I allowed myself to believe something I had never dared to before. I belonged here. Not because I was chosen, not because someone gave permission, but because I earned my place. Within a year, Open Key Investments expanded nationally, then internationally. And then, everything changed with one headline. I woke up to dozens of missed calls and messages from journalists, friends, and even strangers online. My assistant's voice trembled through the phone. "You need to look at Forbes, now." Still half asleep, I opened the article. There it was. Michelle Hartman, the city's youngest self-made billionaire. For a long moment, I didn't move. My hands hovered over the screen, and my breath came slow and shallow. I read the line again and again, waiting for it to make sense. Billionaire. Not a fantasy. Not a maybe. Not a someday. Reality. My reality. The article wasn't just numbers and praise. It told my story, the struggle, the rejections, the years no one saw, the mission behind the company, access, not privilege, fairness, not gatekeeping. Suddenly, the world knew my name. Interviews flooded in, CNN, Bloomberg, BBC, major podcasts, international business summits. My calendar became a battlefield of requests and obligations. I traveled constantly. New York, San Francisco, London, Singapore, private meetings, conferences, negotiations. There were days I barely slept, and nights where adrenaline alone kept me moving. But underneath the noise, something quieter stirred, something I hadn't expected. Old ghosts waking up. It started with a text message. A number I didn't recognize. "Hi Michelle, it's your cousin Emily. I saw the Forbes article. Wow, congratulations." For a moment I just stared at the message. Emily, the cousin who laughed along with the others that day at the reunion. The girl who once whispered behind my back that I was trying too hard. I typed a response. Then deleted it. Then put the phone down. She wasn't the only one. Messages continued. "So proud of you. We always knew you had potential. We should reconnect. Family sticks together." But one message broke the pattern. From my mother. 5 words. "We should talk, call me." My chest tightened, not with anger, but with something much older. The last time I saw her, she was adjusting my hair like an inconvenience attached to her. The last words she spoke to me before I left were, "No man will ever want you." Now she wanted a conversation. I didn't reply. Not then. Not for weeks. Instead, I poured myself into the company. Growth accelerated. We partnered with financial institutions, governments, and nonprofits. We launched education programs and small investor support initiatives. People who had been shut out of wealth for generations finally had access. And every time I saw a single mother buy her first investment property, or a young teacher take her first financial step, I felt something stronger than pride: purpose. Still, the messages from my family never stopped. They shifted tone over time. From congratulatory, to persistent, to irritated, to almost entitled. As if success erased history. As if time softened memory. It didn't. One evening, after returning from a keynote speech overseas, I found another message, this one from my uncle. The same uncle who once smirked at me like I was a waste of space. "Your mother is worried about you. You're behaving childishly. "Family is important. You should come home." I read it twice. Then, something inside me, something that had waited years for this moment, finally clicked into place. For the first time, I didn't feel fear, or sadness, or longing. I felt clarity. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because now, I mattered to the world. And suddenly, that meant I mattered to them. That night, I finally responded. One message. 7 words. "I'll see you at the next reunion." I hit send. Not because I wanted acceptance. Not because I needed closure. But because some chapters must be faced, not rewritten. And I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The next time I saw them, I wouldn't be the quiet girl holding appetizers. I would be the woman who built a life they never believed she deserved. And they would have no choice but to see me. Family reunions look different when the power dynamic shifts. The last time I attended one, I stood silently holding a tray of food while the people who shared my blood chipped away at my dignity like it was entertainment. This time, I arrived with intention. The reunion was scheduled at the same estate, the same sprawling backyard, polished marble floors, and catered tables that once felt like a reminder I didn't belong. As my car approached the gates, memories surfaced like ghosts, sharp, cold, and unwelcome. But this time, there was no sting, just acknowledgement. The guard glanced at the guest list, then back at me, his eyebrows lifted slightly, recognition flickering across his face. "Miss Hartman, welcome." Not Michelle. Not sweetheart. Not the one nobody wanted. Formal, respectful. The first shift. I stepped out of the jet black Maybach and adjusted my tailored suit. Subtle, elegant, and built from confidence rather than the need to impress. There were no logos, no glitter, just presence. As I walked through the front entrance, conversations faltered. Chairs scraped the patio. Heads turned. Some stared with wide eyes, some with forced smiles, some with calculation. But no one laughed. My mother was the first to approach. Her heels clicked against the stone floor as she walked toward me with a rehearsed smile, one that softened at the edges when she got close enough to actually see me. "Michelle," she breathed, as if saying my name tasted different now. "You look incredible." I offered a polite smile. "Thank you." There was a pause, a long one, where I could almost see her wrestling with what to say next. "I'm glad you came," she finally murmured. I simply nodded. She wasn't ready for more, and I wasn't going to fill the silence for her. Next came my uncle, the same man who once announced loudly that no man would ever want me, who wore cruelty like cologne. He took a long look at me, my posture, my calmness, the quiet authority I carried, and something flickered in his expression. Regret? Fear? Recognition? I didn't know. I didn't care. He forced a laugh. "Well, well, look who decided to join the family again." Not an apology. Not accountability. But a fragile attempt to pretend nothing happened. I looked him in the eyes, not with anger, but with something far more powerful. Neutrality. "It's good to see you," I said calmly. He blinked. People fear those they cannot control. Before anyone else could speak, a familiar voice cut through the tension. My cousin Emily approached with a soft smile. "I read the Forbes article," she said quietly. "What you built is remarkable." This one wasn't pretending. Her voice held sincerity, not flattery. "Thank you," I said, meaning it. Someone called out from across the garden, "Everyone, dinner is being served." We moved toward the long outdoor table, ornate, white linens, polished silver, wine glasses glistening under string lights. The same scene as years ago, yet everything felt different. I took my seat, not at the edge, not at the corner, right in the center. No one questioned it. Halfway through dinner, my uncle raised a glass. "A toast," he announced, clearing his throat, "to family and to growth." His eyes flicked to me. And to Michelle, who has surprised us all. The table shifted uncomfortably. I met his gaze. "No," I responded softly, steady enough for everyone to hear. "I didn't surprise you. You underestimated me." Silence. My mother stared at her plate. A few cousins exchanged wide-eyed looks. My uncle's jaw tightened. I continued, not loud, not emotional, just honest. I wasn't successful in spite of you, I said. I'm successful because I finally stopped trying to earn approval from people who never intended to give it. No theatrics, no raised voice, just truth. Someone at the far end whispered, "Wow." But I wasn't finished. Family should build each other, not break each other. And I hope, truly, that this generation learns differently. Slowly, I lifted my glass. To growth, I said. This time, not a single voice hesitated. To growth. As glasses clinked, something inside me finally settled. Not revenge, not triumph. Closure. I didn't return to prove I was worthy. I returned to confirm I never needed their validation to begin with. And as the evening continued, conversations shifting, music playing, tension dissolving, one thing became undeniable. I was no longer the girl standing on the outside of the circle. I was the center of it. But not because they accepted me. Because I had accepted myself. And somewhere deep inside, I knew. The final chapter hadn't arrived. Not yet. But it was coming. And when it did, it would change everything. People think closure is a conversation, an apology, a dramatic, cinematic moment where everything suddenly makes sense. But closure isn't something people give you. Closure is something you choose. A few months after the reunion dinner, another invitation arrived. This time handwritten, not printed. Hartman Family Legacy Summit. Attendance requested. Requested. Not invited. The letter sounded formal, almost corporate. My childhood self would have overanalyzed it, wondered if they finally wanted me, hoped someone had changed. But the woman I had become read it twice, set it aside, and continued running a company. Still, something inside me knew the story wasn't finished. So yes, I went. Not because they requested me, not because I needed them, but because I had one final truth to deliver. Not through anger, but through presence. I didn't arrive in silence this time. My private jet, a sleek, matte black Gulfstream, landed directly on the estate's private runway. The same runway my uncle bragged about for decades. The same one I once watched from afar, thinking, people like me don't belong near things like this. The moment the wheels touched down, staff scrambled, heads tilted, phones lifted. No one knew whose jet it was. Until I stepped off the stairs. My heels hit the pavement with purpose, not arrogance, just certainty. I wore a black suit, sharp lines, clean silhouette, no apology built into the shape of it. The first face I saw was my uncle's. His expression shifted, confusion, recognition, then something else. Reality. My mother stood beside him, hands clasped, eyes wide, not with pride, but something closer to disbelief. I approached slowly, the wind lifting strands of my hair. "You flew here?" my uncle finally managed. "No," I replied calmly. "I arrived." His mouth opened, then closed. We walked toward the estate in silence, the tension thick enough to cut. Inside, family members waited. Some looked nervous, some curious, some ashamed. A long, polished conference table filled the center of the room. Documents, charts, financial folders spread across its surface. My cousin cleared his throat. "We've asked everyone here," he began carefully, "because the family business is in trouble." There it was, the real reason. Not reconciliation. Not regret. Need. My mother finally spoke, barely above a whisper. "Michelle, we could use your guidance." I took a seat, not rushed, not hesitant. "What exactly are you asking?" I said. My uncle inhaled sharply, the same man who once smirked at my existence, now forced to choose respect. "We want you to join the board," he said. "Help us modernize. Save the Hartman name." Moments passed. No one moved. I let the silence speak first. Then I exhaled, slowly. "I'm not here to save a name," I said. "Names don't build people. Actions do." Eyes dropped. No one disagreed. I continued. "For years I tried to belong here. I tried to be enough, smart enough, pretty enough, acceptable enough, but every time I reached for a seat, someone reminded me that I didn't deserve one. My gaze lifted, steady. So I built my own table. No one breathed. You don't need me, I said softly. You need change. You need humility. You need to stop confusing cruelty with tradition. A few eyes glistened. Not many, but enough. And I'll help. Not because you dismissed me. Not because you finally see me, but because future generations deserve better than what we had. My uncle swallowed. My mother wiped a tear she didn't want anyone to see. My cousin finally whispered, "So, is that a yes?" "It's a partnership," I said, "not a surrender." Relief rippled through the room. Not victory, just understanding. The meeting shifted to details, logistics, timelines. For the first time, when I spoke, no one interrupted, no one minimized, no one smirked. Hours passed. Agreements formed. Plans took shape. But the true closure happened outside, after the meeting, when my mother approached me alone. Her voice broke before the words did. "I don't expect forgiveness," she whispered, "but I am proud of you. And I'm sorry for not being the mother you needed." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then I nodded, not accepting the apology fully, not rejecting it, simply acknowledging it. Some wounds don't disappear, but they stop bleeding. As I walked back toward the jet, I paused and looked at the house one last time, not with anger, not with longing, with peace. Because they finally saw me. Not the quiet girl. Not the outsider. Not the one never smart enough. But the woman who rebuilt her future from the ground up. A woman shaped not by their approval, but by her refusal to break. I boarded the jet, took my seat, and glanced through the window as the engines roared. And with the smooth rise into the sky, one truth settled deep inside me. I didn't come back for them. I came back to show the girl I used to be. She won.